Hey folks, Malforian here, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at Crusader Kings 3 Chancellors, what they do, where I generally use their options and things like that. I've had a few people comment on recent videos that are either new to the series from the console edition that came out, or with Fate of Iberia coming out, just kind of generally asking what I use, where I use them. So I just thought I'd do a quick video. It's a comprehensive guide, just really going through the options and just letting you know, like I say, roughly what I choose. But as always, if you have a better idea or I'm missing a trick somewhere that I should be using one of the options, I do leave it in the comments down below. We can have a nice chat about other options, other strategies, and all that good stuff. So as always though, if you do enjoy the video, if you hit that like button, it helps me more than you probably realize. And if it's your first video, I cover Crusader Kings and other strategy games on the channel. So you know what to do, it's YouTube. But anyway, we're just going to get straight into it. So the first person on the council, but I guess technically not really on the council, is your wife or your husband, obviously depending on who you're playing, and she will basically give you a buff depending on which one of these options you can choose. So assist ruler is the one I generally leave it on. Now this gives a buff to all of them. It is skewed by how good they are at a specific skill. So our wife here, Kaiserin Bertha, is quite good at stewardship. So as you can see, assist ruler gives +1/+1 and then +2 for stewardship because she is quite good at stewardship, and then +1 and then +1. So it kind of just gives you like a nice spread of additional stats rather than focusing on one area. Or you can choose these, which are basically you can focus on one area, obviously. So you can just do court politics, which is basically gives you an additional, basically kind of buffs Chancellor by 1. Chivalry would increase our Marshal by 2, whereas obviously it will give you +1. This is why usually I don't change it, because it's +2 if you focus on it, but if you don't focus on it, it gives you +1 anyway. So, you know, I'm like, it's only +1 extra. Obviously it's because she's not that good at Marshal, but yeah, Managed Domain, if we focused on this, will give you +6 rather than the +2. So that's why I will sometimes change this to Managed Domain, especially if you're like short of a holding here. Actually, I think she's set to that at the moment. She is. So assist ruler, the general one, would be at 6 out of 6 holdings. If we change that to managed domain, we would be 6 out of 7. So we could either pick up an additional holding, or if we picked up a 7th one without planning for it, we could then focus on domain and she'd give us that additional one. So sometimes it's quite good marrying people if there's kind of like an even spread of who you want to choose from, but one of them has really good stewardship. I find it's quite a good one to focus on because you can always get that additional holding that otherwise is quite hard to kind of up that limit otherwise. Also, diplomacy I find is quite a good one for that as well, because obviously that extra bit of diplomacy is always welcome, because that's just additional modifiers and stuff like that. So as always, you know, if your wife has better stats, she can just give you a nice boost to any of these. Pretty obvious. Like I say, I generally will leave it as the standard or do managed domain if I'm desperate for some more domain limit, basically. That's the spouse option. And then we got Patriarch, which you can't change unless you have the doctrine that allows you to change the person here, which most places I think by default don't. So you've got the top one, the one everyone will know, fabricate claim on county. This will give you obviously a claim on an adjacent county usually. You can do ones further away, but it has a reduced chance the further away you go. And it has on here possible side effects. So I will say, obviously the tooltips in Crusader Kings are really, really good. And they will generally tell you the options that can come from the one you choose. Now on here, there is claim on duchy. Now I believe, I may be wrong on this, but I think if your Patriarch has more than 10 learning, you get the claim on duchy side effect. I don't think it can happen less than 10, or it's like a very steep reduction in chance if it can. I'm pretty sure in CK2 you had to be over 10. Without checking, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the same for CK3. And this is obviously just, you know, get a claim somewhere so you can take it in a war. And then that claim on duchy means there's a chance that you'll get a claim on the entire duchy rather than just the county, which is really, really good. I often, especially once I've kind of got the ball rolling on my lands, I will generally cancel it if it just gives you me the county, because a lot of the time wars aren't worth fighting over a single county. They obviously are at times, but I usually wait till it kind of procs that full duchy claim, and then you can obviously take a whole bunch of land in one war rather than individual counties here or there. Obviously, there's times where either are good. So yeah, you have to use this most of the time. Obviously, once you get to a point where you have different CBs, you don't have to worry about it. Or if you're tribal, generally don't have to worry about it. Or if you're playing in Fate of Iberia, if you're in part of the struggle, there's a lot of cool CBs in there, which generally mean you don't have to use claim on county. And the further you go in the game, the kind of less use you'll get of this. You can push other people's claims and all that cool stuff. So at the beginning of the game, I use this obviously more, especially if I'm feudal. As the game progresses, generally we'll have to use it less and less. But yeah, that's obviously what that does. Convert faith in county. Now, people will probably disagree with me with this. I don't use this as much as I guess I probably should. If you own lands directly, you probably should use this because the opinion modifier is pretty bad if you don't have it, the same faith as what you are. But yeah, I guess if you're not putting claims on counties, you might as well use this to convert counties to your faith. Gets rid of all the negative modifiers for your lands being of different faiths. And then it has got a chance, like you can see here, to increase development and levies and stuff like that. So it has got some nice little side effects as well. And then the last one here is religious relations. This gives you some piety, just some base piety every month, obviously based on the level of your Chancellor skill. And then it increases a vassal opinion. And then the other thing it will do is it buffs your opinion modifier with theocratic rulers. So every other kind of bishop in your realm will get a modifier that increases every month. And then the other thing, you kind of like loss of piety, loss of vassal opinion, but they aren't really as important, really. I mean, the loss of piety is not great, but I generally don't use this unless I'm desperate for some piety, basically. I'll generally have this, and then when I've kind of lost the use of this, I'll just start converting places. So they're kind of in order, to be honest, of the order in which I would use them. Top to bottom. The other thing as well is you've got to make sure your realm piece generally endorses you because it will help you a little bit as well. So yeah, that's kind of what the Patriarch does. And then we're on to the Chancellor. Chancellor's a pretty good one as well. Some of these options you can only have if you have certain things though. So bestow royal favor, you have to have a court to do this. So you've got to be a king or higher. And it basically gives you a little bit of prestige, which is always quite good, but one of the options later is better. And then what it will do is it increases your vassal prestige and your vassal opinion. So it's a good way of getting some opinion from your vassals, but it does also give them prestige, which isn't amazing. It does have cool side effects of obviously giving you an additional boost of vassal opinion, and it can end internal wars, which is okay. I mean, most internal wars, I don't know about you guys, I generally just leave them to play out, but you can use this to kind of stop them earlier. So to be honest, I don't really use bestow royal favor. It's okay, but I think if you're that desperate for vassal opinion, you've probably got issues elsewhere, but it's not too bad. They've got integrate title, which you can't see the tooltip because we haven't got either. We can integrate. This basically just speeds up integrating a title that isn't de jure part of your realm into your realm. So generally over the game, I think it takes, is it 50 years or 100 years for the de jure drift to happen, where it will just de jure come under your lands because you've owned it for so long. This basically just speeds that up and allows it to happen a little bit quicker. Generally don't use it because I don't know. I probably should again. There's probably times when I should use this, but I generally won't. Domestic affairs is just as it says, helps get your direct vassals on your side. It also has a lot of cool side effects. Again, end internal war, kind of like the top one. And then improve feudal contracts. So you get some events where you can go to a vassal and say, well, I'm changing this contract and I don't have to give you anything to change it. So again, it's quite a nice little bonus there if you do get some lucky rolls. But yeah, this one's a good one. I generally use this one when I initially take over a realm on a new character because you have that short reign modifier. And this can help boost your opinion with your vassals quite quickly. So I'll generally leave it on this, and then once I have modifiers high enough, I'll switch it to foreign affairs, which gives you prestige a month, which is great. And then it also makes independent rulers like you as well, so you can sometimes get better marriages and stuff like that from having this active. And then the other good side effect is shortened truce. So, you know, instead of having those 5-year truces after a war, you can just get an event and it says, oh, we've forgotten about the truce. Let's just get back to doing some wars. So it is a cool one. So I'll generally leave it on domestic affairs. Once people like me enough, I'll switch it to foreign affairs. And then you're getting that extra prestige and you're getting the extra chance to go to war with the same person over and over. So overall, I think it's pretty good. But yeah, that's Chancellor. Chancellor's pretty good. I generally just keep to these two options, though, to be honest. Next one, Steward, I think, is by far the best Chancellor. And I think the problem is that he has too many good skills. And I kind of wish they'd split one or two of them out. but they're not wanting to, and it's kind of a shame because some of them are good. There's also a pitfall which we'll talk about later on. So the first one here is promote cultural acceptance. This obviously just improves cultural acceptance, as it says. This can help you if you have a lot of cultures under you. It can reduce the modifier that characters have for being incorrect culture with you. I think it's -20. If you're the wrong culture to what they are. This will reduce that modifier too. I think you can get it down to 0 if your steward's that good, but it definitely reduces it anyway, which is fantastic. And then it can also boost cultural acceptance, just like a general like big boost of it, and some development growth stuff as well. So overall, it's pretty good. I think especially if you're going to hybridize your culture with another culture, it's fantastic. You need cultural acceptance to be higher, so it's not too bad. It's pretty good, that one. And then promote culture, kind of the same as promote convert faith in county. This is basically converting a county to your culture, so it does reduce that. Obviously gets rid of the modifier for it being the wrong culture, can prevent factions and all that good stuff, and it's basically the same. Like I say, it converts it. It's pretty does exactly what it says on the tin. Again, I probably don't use this enough. I probably should convert my realm to my culture more than I do, especially if I'm playing somewhere where there's a lot of different cultures. But it usually takes such a long time that I just don't bother doing it. I'm sure there are times where I should be using this where I don't, but it's not too bad. The one I will generally use is increased development in county, which is the third one. It just, as it says, increases your development growth, which is amazing. And then it also reduces construction time. So I will basically just focus on my capital with this, get my development going, helps reduce, obviously, construction time if I'm building a lot of buildings in the same area. And then the one thing to know is there is a cap. Some people don't know this. I've seen it mentioned elsewhere. Some people don't realize there is a cap on your development in counties. If we have a look down here, let's have a look in our capital. I'm not sure what it is. Our development here is 11. So he's nowhere near the cap. Do you know what? I'm not actually sure where you can see what your current cap is, but what you can do is if you look at innovations, I think it's royal prerogative. No, is it this one? Yeah, here we go. So communal government, this increases your cap so you can hit 35. And then I think there's one here that gives it up to 40. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh no, there we go, 55. And obviously there must be one in the top one that I think like 75 or something like that. So I will always increase development in my capital until I hit that cap. And it's pretty hard to hit the cap usually. I guess you have to get really lucky with development growth, or just have a lot of characters that are learning focused where there is a buff to that as well. And yeah, if you ever hit the cap, you've just got to change it, because I don't think the game tells you if you've hit the cap. I think it will just allow this to keep running, but it won't give you any benefit from the development growth, which isn't fantastic. You still get the building and holding construction time reduction, so it's not awful, but it is one thing to keep an eye on. If you hit that cap somehow, obviously change it to something else until you get that tech that allows you to increase it. The other thing to remember is tribal don't get benefit from development. So obviously if you're playing a tribal character, there's no point really focusing on this unless you're planning on going feudal, and then obviously you can kind of build up your development, and then when you go feudal, you can get that additional benefit. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then the last, well, I was going to say the last one, but there's actually an additional one here. There's actually 5 now. For the steward. Like I say, he has a lot of jobs. It's collect taxes. Now, this is one that I think a lot of people leave it on, and collect taxes is okay, but it's generally bad to use, I think, unless you're desperate for money, because it's the only one really that doesn't give you future benefits from using. So if you have collect taxes on, yeah, you make a little bit of extra money. If for here it's 6%. So it's giving us barely any difference. In fact, if we change it to something else, let's change it to development. We'll just put something on development. We're getting plus 10. If we put collect taxes, 10.2. So we're getting that 0.2 gold extra. It's not worth it. You can get events that give you like a stack of coin, like 50 or I think 100 maybe. 50 is the one you generally see. But I just don't think it's kind of worth it. If you're that desperate for money, you've probably made mistakes elsewhere. And like I say, you get an extra money now, but you don't get any future benefit. Whereas development, obviously, the better your development gets, the more levies you get, the more tax you get, and the more supply limit and stuff like that you get in a county. So you get future benefit from that. And even cultural things, obviously if you promote your culture, once it's converted, you get more, better opinion modifiers, stuff like that in that area, less likely to rebel against you. And cultural acceptance, yeah, again, it will reduce modifiers, so in the future that helps you. Whereas tax, it helps you now, but it gives you no benefit in the future. So it's not amazing, but I think I used to leave it on this a lot, and then I realized, no, development's way better. And collect taxes, if I'm desperate, but as you saw here, it barely makes any difference really anyway. So yeah, I don't really think it's worth it. And then the last one is convince de jure territory. Now this is a weird one. I've looked at the wiki for this one. I've used it in game, and I'm still not 100% sure how it actually works. So if you have this, you can basically try convince another ruler that if you have like a de jure land that's actually part of their realm, you can go to them and say like, hey, do you mind actually just giving that to me because I should own it? And which is pretty fun. It's like a good way to get something for free. But the problem is it usually takes a long time, like 10 years, and usually they just go, no. Just go, no, I don't want to give it to you. And you're like, okay. That was like 10 years and I got literally nothing out of doing it. So I've never used this one. I've used it once on a live stream a while ago, just because we were wondering what it did. And yeah, we asked someone and they just said, no, I don't want to give it to you. And I was like, okay, just wasted. I think that one was like 6 or 7 years. I've just wasted 6 years of my steward. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you've seen a cool way to use this that I've not encountered. But yeah, generally looking, it seems kind of not great. But there might be, like say, an example where it is useful. But do let me know if there is. And then, yes, that's steward. Like I say, the best one, I think, has all these are generally good. Apart from this one, and tax is probably overrated by people, but these three are all fantastic. And so it's always a bit of a decision as to what you're going to get him to do, but that's kind of a good thing, I guess. And then, yeah, Marshal. So Marshal is pretty good. It's got managed royal guards. Again, I think you have to have a royal court for this one. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to have the royal court active for this one to appear. And basically just buffs your knight effectiveness and reduces hostile scheme chance. It's okay. I'll be honest, I never use this one, but it's not too bad. If you've got a lot of knights, it's pretty good, but one of the ones further down here, I think, also buffs knights. Yeah, so again, it's kind of a middle one. A lot of the ones that have been added since the base game are kind of like half and half of something else. So this was added with Royal Court, and it's kind of a mix of these two. And this was added with Royal Court, and it's kind of a mix of these two. Well, no, actually, it's a mix of like this one and this one. So kind of like straddles into Spymaster a little bit, which is less fun than it sounds. So yeah, it basically reduces chance of schemes, but increase your knight. I guess if you think you're going to get a lot of schemes against you, it's quite good. But like I said, I never really use it. The next one here is increased control in county. This basically just increases your control in a county, as it says. So if we look at Klingenberg here, it has control 100, so it doesn't need to be increased. This basically is it will give you a modifier on how much levies, gold, basically how well the county acts. And then if it's too low, you get corruption and a lot of bad stuff. So you basically want this to be 100 if you can. And then there is a lifestyle perk that allows you to get absolute control, which I think if you're at 100, it gives you additional bonuses as well. So yeah, if I own land directly, I will usually use this to get it up to 100. Let's say I bet all his lands are at 100. Yeah, they are. See, this guy has absolute control, so it gives you additional bonuses. It gives you 5% more tax and 10% more... no, 10% more tax, 5% more levies. I'm trying to find one here that doesn't have 100. It's kind of harder than I thought it was going to be. Well, never mind. I guess everyone's doing really well at the moment. I suppose it's because I guess nobody's had land taken off them recently. So you'll get the county modifier if that land is sieged or something like that. So I guess because we've just started the game, no one has it less than 100. So never mind. Let's ignore that I ever said any of that. So anyway, if it's less than 100, I'll use this on my own lands that I own directly just to get it back up. I generally don't use it on my vassals' lands because I think, well, I'll just let them do it. And the other buffs here are generally better. If you do have less than 100 control, you will get a notification up here telling you that. It'll say low control in whichever county it is. So it's a good little reminder to do it if you've forgotten. And then, yeah, the next one is Train Commanders. This is obviously as it says. It increases your knight effectiveness, men-at-arm damage, and toughness based on how good your Marshal is. So he's 20 Marshal. So this can be buffed up to 20%, which is a lot. Knight effectiveness is one of the best stats in the game to increase. And this can increase it by 20%, which is ridiculous, to be honest. And your men-at-arms damage. So it's just fantastic. I will generally leave it on this, unless I need one of the other options for whatever reason. Just because the buff is just so good if you have a good Marshal. Even if you have a bad Marshal, if you have 5 Marshal, like, it's still 5%, which is really good. So 20 is ridiculous. And it does have other side effects, like all of them. Little bonuses you can get here or there, which are pretty nice as well. And then the last one is Organized Army. This basically increases your garrison size, levy size, and reinforcement rate by a percentage of your martial skill of the Chancellor, plus 1%, so this guy would have 21%. And it reduces your army maintenance by 21% as well. So you get larger levies, and they will reinforce faster, and they cost 21% less. It's okay. I think if you're running out of money and you're doing a lot of wars, this is quite good. It does save you the money, and then it does reinforce your armies. So if you're doing a lot of battles, you're just getting generally a lot of attrition to your army. It is quite good because it will reinforce it quicker, and your garrisons will be bigger. So if you got a lot of sieges happening, it will help them kind of hold out that little bit extra as well. So it's not too bad, Organized Army. You could leave it on this one as a default. It's not too bad, but I definitely think this one is better. I guess if you're doing a offensive war, Train Commanders is probably better. If you're under attack a lot yourself, Organized Army is probably better. Although it's kind of a mix. This would allow you to kind of hold out a little bit longer, so not too bad. Like I say, these two are really good. The top one, not so much. And increased control in county, I think is great if you need it. And then obviously it grays out if you don't, so you don't even have to worry about it then. And the last one is Spymaster. Everyone knows my thoughts on intrigue in this game. Just leave it on this bottom one. Just leave it on this one. It reduces the chance of schemes against you, and it increases the chance you'll discover schemes. And that's it. Basically, it's just good to leave it like that. The other options, though, support scheme. Obviously, if you're doing hostile schemes, it just buffs the chance it will happen. Kind of boring, but that's what it does. And then the top one, Find Secrets. I've been using this a little bit, actually, in my Rise of the Habsburg campaign, if you watch on the channel. It's a story campaign about the Rise of the Habsburgs. And we're trying to get a hook on the Kaiser, or just generally find some information about him. So I have used Find Secrets a little bit for that. It gives you a chance, basically, you can just tell it to go somewhere, and then they'll find secrets about people in that court. So it's not too bad. The one cool side effect of it, though, is you find a secret out about somebody, and you can just say, oh, I'll forget about the secret, and they give you a plus 20 modifier. So you could use it to farm opinion modifiers in other people's realms, which you might be able to then use on schemes, get them to come on board as an agent in a scheme that they previously wouldn't have done, perhaps. So, as I say, I don't really play intrigue in Crusader Kings. I think it's kind of boring. So I generally just leave it on this bottom one because there's less chance you're going to get murdered by somebody. But the other two have their, if you do a lot of scheming, this one's quite good. Just buffs your support chance. Just always check if you're already at like 95%. There's no point doing this because it can't increase it past 95%. So yeah, you're kind of wasting the use of him by doing that. And then Find Secrets. You just find secrets and then you can use them for shenanigans. So it's not horrendous, but I think it's the most boring out of all of them because it's all just passive buffs. Whereas I guess the rest are, but they're more like targeted passive buffs where you kind of think of a scenario where you're going to use it a bit more than the Spymaster. Well, I think so anyway, myself. And then obviously the only other thing to remember with your counselors, you genuinely want your powerful vassals on the court. It will tell you if you don't. Up here, you'll get a thing. There we go. Powerful vassal expects to be on the council. Now, you can obviously have more than 4 powerful vassals. So you have got to play that juggling game of one of them isn't going to be on there. But you can generally have one powerful vassal that likes you enough that they don't need to be on the court. But it is something to keep in mind. If they're not on the court, they get a minus 60 modifier, I think. And if they're on the court, I think they get a plus 20. Or is it plus 10? Plus 10. So it's kind of a 70-point swing by them not being on the council. So it's definitely, if you have a powerful vassal that isn't happy, you can get them on the on the council, or obviously if all your powerful vassals are pretty happy and you have a council below who's really good at a stat, so like this person's terrible at intrigue. He likes us quite a bit. He's obviously not going to like us when we replace him, but we could probably risk it and be like, well, you're awful. People might want to kill us, so you're not going to help us at all. Actually, the other powerful vassal we have is actually really good at intrigue, so we just switch these over. There we go. And then he loves us now, because he went from that negative opinion modifier to having the plus opinion modifier, and he's going to be way better at protecting us, unless he's trying to kill us himself. And then he's not. Then he's going to get a massive bonus to try to kill us. So not ideal if that's the case. But yeah, we're just going to leave it there today. Like I say, just a quick overview. A lot of this stuff you probably already know if you play the game a lot. But like I say, I've had some questions recently. And I just thought it'd be a cool video on the channel just to kind of talk through them, roughly what each one does, and when I generally use them or not. But as I said, leave a comment down below if you think otherwise, or missing a trick somewhere, or there's a cool combination maybe I haven't thought of that I should be using, and yeah, we can have a chat about it down there. So as I said at the beginning, if you've enjoyed the video today, hit that like button. It helps other people find the video and the channel. And if you're new here and this is your first video, subscribe to the channel. I cover Crusader Kings, the dev diaries, I do story campaigns on the channel as well, and the occasional live stream, and I cover other grand strategy games on the channel as well. So if that's your kind of thing, hit that subscribe button and you'll get all the future stuff. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I'll see you in the next one.